Hey, this is Christiana and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how to make a long sleeve mitten. So I'm going to start off with pattern drafting and then the sewing after that. So stay tuned and let's get started. So these are the measurements needed for a long sleeve mitten. So the hand circumference, you measure it around your hand on this area. And then the wrist circumference, you measure it around your wrist. And then the elbow circumference, you measure it around your elbow. And then the bicep circumference, you measure it around your bicep. And then your wrist to elbow measurements, you take it from the wrist to the elbow. And then your wrist to sleeve length, my sleeve length is until over here around my bicep. So my wrist to sleeve length measurement is taken from the wrist to the sleeve length. Your wrist to hand length is the length of your mitten to your hand. So my mitten is gonna go until here. So I'm gonna take this measurement from the wrist to the length on the hand. Now I'm drawing up the mitten pattern, and I'm starting by drawing a 90-degree line to the edge of the paper. And this line will be my sleeve length line. Okay, and then I'm just gonna indicate SL for sleeve length. Now I'm gonna measure my wrist, which is 43.5 centimeters from the sleeve length. And then I'm just going to indicate W on this line for wrist. From the wrist, I'm drawing my hand length, which is 8 centimeters. And also from the wrist, I'm drawing my elbow measurement, which is 22 centimeters. And then I'm just going to indicate with an E for elbow on this line, and then HL for hand length on this line. This edge of the pattern is going to be on fold, so I'm just going to mark FL for fold line on the edge. Now I'm going to mark half the circumference measurements on the lines. The circumference of my sleeve length is 19 centimeters, half that is 9.5 centimeters. And that's what I'm marking on the sleeve length line. My elbow circumference is 20.5 centimeters, half that is 10.25 centimeters, and that's what I mark on the elbow line. My wrist circumference is 14 centimeters, half that is 7 centimeters, and that's what I mark on the wrist line. My hand circumference is 18.5 centimeters, half that is 9.25 centimeters, and that's what I mark on the hand length line. I'm going to use a stretchy fabric with a lot of stretch to make this mitten, so because of that I'm going to move all my points down by 0.6 centimeters. Now I draw a line through my new points. Curve out the corners for curvy finishes. Now I'm going to mark the position of my thumb opening. So for that I need to measure my hand. So I'm going to measure the length of my mitten on the hand. And I'm going to measure it starting from the wrist. My mitten length is 8 centimeters, and I'm just going to mark it there. After that, I'm going to transfer the 8 centimeter point to the edge of my hand, and then I'm just going to mark the position of my thumb opening, which is from this point to under my thumb, which is over here. Okay, so it's gonna run like this. Alright, so now I'm going to measure the distance from this point to that point, and it's 2.5 centimeters. Okay, and then I'm measuring again the distance from this point to that point. And this is 5.5 centimeters. Okay, so on my pattern, I mark the 2.5 centimeters from the hand length line. And from this point, I mark the 5.5 centimeter point. Okay, there we have it. So from this point to this point is the thumb opening. Alright, so I'm just gonna indicate with a T and an O for thumb opening. Now I'm adding hemming allowance on this edge and on this edge. So my hemming allowance from the sleeve length is 6 centimeters. My hemming allowance from the hand length is 1.5 centimeters. The sides of my hems are tilted, and that will be applied when I cut out the pattern. Okay, so I'm just gonna mark hemming allowance on the lines. Now I'm adding a seam allowance on this side of the pattern. The seam allowance is 0.6 centimeters. Okay, so this is my seam allowance. Okay, so now I'm making my indications, and this is the flow of the fabric yarn. Now I'm going to cut out my pattern, and I'm going to start off by cutting at the hemming allowances. So I'm only cutting until midway, and then I'm folding these pieces out of the way. After that, I'm going to fold at the sleeve length and at the hand length. Now I'm going to cut out my pattern while the hemming allowances are folded backwards. This way the tilt on the sides of my hemming allowances will be added on as I cut out the pattern. Alright, so the pattern is done. Now I'm going to fold out the hemming allowances. And as you can see, these tilts on the sides of my hemming allowances are added on. Now I'm sewing my mittens, and this is the fabric I'm using to sew my mittens. It's a stretchy ribbed fabric. So I'm going to fold it now, and I'm going to make sure the stretch runs horizontally across the pattern. Okay, so I made sure that the stretch is running horizontally as I fold. And then now I'm going to place my pattern on the fabric. I'm going to place my ruler on my pattern to keep it in place. And then with my chalk, I'm just going to trace out my pattern. After tracing, cut out the piece. Now I'm cutting 2 notches to indicate my thumb opening. Alright, I've cut out 2 pieces of my pattern. Now I'm going to overlock. So I'm going to overlock around my pieces. After overlocking, I'm going to sew. So I'm going to sew in my seam allowance on the side, making sure that I left my thumb openings open. I have overlocked the edges of my glove and I have sewn the sides of my glove together with my thumb opening left open. Now I'm going to sew the seam allowance around the thumb opening against the fabric. And this is how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to sew this seam allowance around the thumb opening. So I have sewn the allowance around the thumb opening. So now I'm going to hem. So I'm hemming the edges of the glove. And the hemming allowance for this edge is 1.5 centimeters. The hemming allowance for this side is 6 centimeters. So with a zigzag stitch, I'm going to hem the openings. So I've hemmed both the arm opening and the hand opening of my glove, and the glove is finished. So now I'm going to turn it to the right side so you see how it looks. My other piece is also done. Very nice. So I'm going to wear them. Alright, very nice. They're comfortable to wear. They're not very tight. So you can pull them down and wear them short length as well. Alright, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. Bye.